Robert Joseph is a senior scholar at the National Institute for Public Policy and professor at Missouri State University. He was the United States Special Envoy for Nuclear Proliferation with ambassadorial rank. And prior to that, he was Undersecretary of State for Arms Control and International Security, where I got to know Bob. I got to work with him after I left the Senate when we headed up a board looking at international security matters. Bob authored a book recently describing his experience in negotiating with Libya entitled Countering WMD. He was the chief U.S. negotiator in 2003 who convinced the Libyans to give up their WMD program. Bob, thank you for being with us today.
Senator, good afternoon. It's always a pleasure to visit with you.
Well, I hope you're doing well. I've read your comments from time to time, and I'm glad to know that you're still keeping your eye on the situation and greatly engaged. There's a lot to keep your eye on these days.
There is. Never a dull moment with this administration.
What do you think about the substance of the president's decision with regard to our missile defense system there, and the way it was carried out?
Well, I think the decision is disturbing on a number of levels. Let me just mention a few of them. I think first, it undermines our ability to defend in the future against an Iran that's armed with long-range ballistic missiles, perhaps carrying nuclear weapons. I need to be clear, they don't have this capability today, but we know that they're working, and they're working hard on both the nuclear component and the long-range missile component. And when they do achieve this capability, we'll be much less able to defend against the threat. And that, in my view, will allow the mullahs and the other civilian leaders of Iran to hold our cities hostages for purposes of blackmail. I mean, the threat is coming. Have no doubt about that.
Yes.
We saw earlier this year Iran putting a satellite into space, which demonstrates the technology for long-range missiles. Just yesterday, reports surfaced that the IAEA has assessed that Iran has the knowledge to build a nuclear weapon. We need to get out in front of the threat, and the third site was an important means of doing that.
They also said they were developing the missile capability to deliver that weapon.
Absolutely.
Why would we not, as a matter of policy, and you've been on the inside here when these decisions were made, would we not try to stay ahead of our enemy's technology?
Well, I think it's imperative that we do stay ahead, and that's why I find this decision very disturbing. I think there is a sort of pervasive naivete about the decision, in the sense that there is a view that if we abandon the site, then the Russians perhaps will be more amenable to taking real steps with regard to Iran's nuclear program. I think just the opposite is likely to be the case. And I think also the decision will be seen by those who want to challenge us, and that's rogue states as well as others, including Russia, as a sign of weakness. And it's consistent with other steps that have been taken by the administration recently with regard to negotiating with Iran, despite the fact that Iran's leaders have taken the nuclear program off the table, setting a precondition that we apparently will accept. And North Korea, the decision to hold bilateral negotiations with North Korea, following North Korea's nuclear test and their notification to the United Nations that they're developing more nuclear weapons through the reprocessing of plutonium and a new line of enrichment of uranium for fissile material.
Bob, as you know, their justification for this is several-fold, but they're basically saying we're going to have a newer, better, online, quicker system based upon our intelligence, that they're behind where where we originally thought they were in terms of the long-range missile capability. Do you find it somewhat amazing that with regard to the criticism that they've been leveling at our intelligence community and what's going on with regard to our intelligence community, that they would make a decision like this, that apparently based upon very recent intelligence information. Did you have any intelligence information when you were there that they were behind the curve in terms of where we originally thought they were in terms of a long-range missile capability?
Well, I have not seen any recent intelligence reports, but this characterization of the decision as a shift based on an intelligence assessment of the threat, a shift to shorter and medium-range threats, is one that I have real difficult accepting, because I don't think it's a shift as much as it is an abandonment of one element of a comprehensive strategy for dealing with the threat. The Bush administration understood the importance of protecting against short and medium-range missiles and put a lot of resources into Patriots and THAADs and sea-based missiles.
It doesn't have to be either or, does it?
No, exactly. In fact, on the shorter and medium-range missile defense, I suspect that as we peel away the sort of packaging of yesterday's decision, we will find that this administration will actually do less in this area than the Bush administration was doing. But the important point, as you point out, is that the Bush administration had a comprehensive strategy, a layered defense against all ranges of ballistic missiles. And what we're doing now is weakening our ability to defend against the long-range threat that is emerging.
Everybody knows that this has to do with Russia and hopefully trying to get something desperately out of Russia, some concession. Is a part of that. Do you think that they are looking forward to the START negotiations and maybe even the nuclear test ban treaty negotiations? By START, I'm talking about reducing the size of our nuclear stockpile. And they. It seems to me like they desperately want to have a record of reduction in those areas and get the ban, passed here and so forth. Do you think that is a part of it? Because it looks to me like that might be a place the Russians might be willing to make some concessions because it would inure to their benefit.
Well, I think that there's no question from what the administration spokespeople have said from the beginning. Okay? And let me say that this decision yesterday was entirely predictable, because from the beginning, the administration has taken the view that we need to remove this obstacle, the third site in Europe, from our relationship with Russia, either to get some grand bargain on Iran, which I think is totally naive, or to facilitate the negotiation of further offensive reductions. The post-START treaty is something that this administration wants very badly. The Russians need it more than we do, but apparently we're willing to pay more for it than they are.
Not an unusual situation. What do you think? Well, Bob, I'm going to have to get you back. We're running a little bit short on time. I could talk to you for a long, long time, but I suspected, knowing your background and your experience, that you'd be concerned about this as I was, and I hope you continue to keep an eye on it, and let's talk about it some more.
Senator, I look forward to a return discussion with you.
Thank you very much. Robert Joseph.